Hello, and welcome to the lab. I am just about to do our lead-in story, but today I thought I would try mixing things up a bit. Turtle did the last lead-in and he did his, outside next to a running stream. That was very cool, so I thought that maybe I would try doing this one in the lab. It's got cool sounds, but I don't know what they might do for telling a story, but, well, this is the right place for experimenting, so here goes. Today we are mostly talking about our junior spy, Tinkel, and we are also thinking about the idea of play. Why don't you listen and then tell us what you think?
Hello. And welcome to our latest video. So we are Wild Art Fly Free and we are all about creativity. I am very happy that you could join us. We are building a world out of stories and we could really use your help. At least, we would really appreciate your feedback. As you watch this video, or some of our other videos, you might come to realize that we don't exactly know what we are doing. No, really, it's okay to mention it. We talk about that all the time. We are building a YouTube channel and none of us know anything about building a YouTube channel. So well, this can be stressful. One of the tricks to learning how to do something new is to have fun. So, that's one of our core strategies to building a world out of stories and a YouTube channel. We play. We work to keep it fun. We brainstorm story ideas and then we try to fit them together to make better stories. So then, please keep this in mind while you watch Bunny's story about Tinkel. While she is presenting it like a story, it is really only a first draft. There is a very good chance that the story bit won't go anywhere. But, that's okay. Because, again we are just playing anyway. Okay. In this week's video we are focused on our junior spy who is a gnome named Tinkel. Our other focus for this video will be the idea of play. With that, then let's see what Bunny has to say.
Grogan was nervous. This was his first time that he had been in a dragon palace. Grogan looked around with wide eyes. So, he thought, is this really a dragon palace? In a dragon's palace, wouldn't you see, well, dragons? Those were Grogan's thoughts. Grogan had never associated with dragons and hadn't studied them either. No, he thought. There weren't that many dragons in the world. Anyway, those were the thoughts of Grogan. Grogan was an experienced home cleaner and he would be nervous about being in a palace. He would not be nervous that he might not be prepared for the job. Experience would give him confidence. Tinkel fought the urge to check his equipment again. No. His current disguise, Grogan, would be confident about his equipment. Tinkel needed to be Grogan. Tinkel needed to trust that he had everything he needed for cleaning. So then, Grogan would be nervous about being in a palace, so Tinkel went with that. He sought out someone who looked official and went up to talk to her. Hello, good lady. I am Grogan the cleaner. I deal with the serious messes. Can you point me to the main living quarters? I know there's a mess, but do not worry, it will soon be gone. Just point me in the right direction. Tinkel let his current disguise, Grogan, find the area where the dragons were most likely to be, and then he let Grogan get to work with the cleaning. Tinkel enjoyed playing the part of Grogan. The expert cleaner was really into cleaning. If anyone was watching, they would see Grogan making a point of not just learning how messed a mess would be, but even what kind of mess it was. Grogan would study a stain and even smell it. Yes, Tinkel liked Grogan and he did enjoy playing the character. Grogan really didn't want to get in anyone's way and he tried to keep a distance from the other workers. That worked for Tinkel, except that, well, Tinkel needed to get close enough to people to hear things. As a spy, the whole point was to learn about the people and especially the dragons. Yes, cleaning stains off the floor was an important job and it gave Tinkel's disguise character, Grogan, some sense of personal worth, but, no. Tinkel was a spy and spies were supposed to learn things. He really wanted to get close to the dragons, but Grogan really wouldn't want that. Well, for today at least, Tinkel would let his disguise make that decision. Grogan could keep his head down and let the other workers come close enough to let Tinkel hear their gossip. So then, Tinkel and his disguise Grogan got to work cleaning. He looked around to find the most obvious, largest, most current messes. As it turned out, messes were easy to find. Maybe dragons weren't that fussy. Well, Tinkel decided that Grogan would be too proud and determined to ignore any of the messes, so he set about making a broader plan to clean the whole room. Anyone who didn't like that idea was going to get one of Grogan's looks. You know, the kind of look that made you think that you needed a thorough cleaning. Tinkel urged Grogan to move closer to some of the servants who were waiting, nervously it seemed, next to a pile of blankets. Occasionally one of the servants would glance at Tinkel, that is, at Grogan, but then they would quickly focus on minding their own business. And then, the pile of blankets rose up and fell apart. Now there was a dragon standing there. It was about as tall as an average human. It looked like a snake with wings. It had arms and legs as well, but mostly, it looked like a snake with wings. Tinkel gave Grogan a metaphorical kick to get him working at the cleaning. So, Grogan really kept his head down. He wanted very much that any winged snakes in the area knew that he was doing a good job cleaning and would be best not to have his head bitten off. Tinkel judged the dragon to be young. Probably about 10 in human years. He was almost certainly a male. If he had gotten the age right, then maybe the dragon would be close to starting puberty. Tinkel hadn't studied dragons enough to know anything about whether or how much puberty affected them. Tinkel was curious to learn more. Grogan was too anxious to be curious. He focused on a bit of grime and scrubbed. And, Grogan was right to be worried. The young dragon hadn't been sleeping under the blankets, he had been hiding. Now that he had revealed himself, the servants played along and screeched and squealed and ran to hide in other parts of the room. Then the dragon stalked them. He carefully looked around the room. Briefly he made eye contact with Tinkel, but Tinkel didn't run. He put his head down and got to work being the busiest floor cleaner that the dragon would have ever seen. And the dragon didn't flame Tinkel, so it must be okay. Tinkel took a chance to glance up. Now the dragon was stalking across the room. And then it happened. Tinkel didn't see the attack, but he certainly heard it. There was footsteps, and a halfling squeak. Then there was a whoosh, and a scream. And the last sound in the short scene, was the dragon grumbling a swear. The dragon's game was over, and the dragon hadn't liked how it had turned out. Tinkel guessed that the very young dragon had got carried away and had flamed the servant in the excitement of the game. Now the dragon youth was aware that he was in trouble. Dragons should not flame servants. Servants were expensive.
Hello. It's good to have you along. Bunny is excited about doing her story in a lab. What did you think? I kind of like the sounds, myself, but if we do this more, we really need to work on Bunny's lighting. Or is it okay like that? Anyway, today we are talking about play and I have some thoughts about the idea of play. Of course we all play games. Some people also play musical instruments. Other people might act and perform in a theatrical play. Our junior spy, Tinkel, is a master of disguise. He likes to play the character of Grogan. So, are these different words that sound like play but really aren't the same word? Or should we think about playing music or play acting or playing a game as sort of the same thing? Also, one of my favorite types of play is about engineering. If we have a wheel on an axle, then if they don't quite fit tightly, then there might be some play. Imagine a cart with a wobbly wheel. The cart can bounce around as it's pulled down the trail and we never know where we might get to. We could use that as a metaphor for a story, couldn't we? Well, we can let that all sink in for a bit. Now, let's talk about our current story about Tinkel. Tinkel is still learning to be a spy, but he has a secret talent. Tinkel is shy, so he loves to be in disguise. A spy doesn't need to be a master of disguises, but it certainly makes for colorful adventures. In today's adventure, Tinkel is spying on dragons. We should remember that Tinkel is being trained by the servants of dragons. These dragons are called the Vitgliv and the servants are called the Vilglia. We aren't sure whether we should call Tinkel a Vilglia or not. If he isn't a Vilglia yet, he would certainly be expected to become one. And we should also remember that Tinkel's job is to spy on a cult called the Kin. Okay. Now we get to some important intrigue. Why is our hero, Tinkel, spying on his bosses? If the Vitguf dragons or their Vilglia servants find out, won't Tinkel be in trouble? Or maybe not. Maybe if Tinkel is caught spying on his bosses they will just think that he is being creative and enthusiastic. No. Probably not. What do you think? His bosses work for dragons, but Tinkel is not at all sure whether the dragons are the type of people that he wants to work for.
Okay. At around day 380, our shy junior spy, Tinkel is in Shattergrog. By this time he has learned some basics in spying with the human who is training him. Her name is Rookie. She is a Vilglia spy. The Vilglia are the humanoid servants of one group of dragons called the Vitgliv.
Tinkel's journey away from Swampford will be all about secrets. The big secret will be about Easley's relationship to the dragons. Tinkel has fewer choices than he ever had before. He has almost no options about where his life might lead. He is training to be a spy. Tinkel is really interested in what Easley's secret is. He knows it has something to do with dragons, and that for some reason, Easley must be important to the dragons. But why? While he was training, Tinkel worked hard at practicing different personas. He has learned to disguise himself in a number of different personalities. Frustratingly though, he is always a shy gnome and he is also always irresistible to women. So, now, Tinkel has now developed into a promising junior spy working for the Vilglia. This is a group of humanoids who are loyal servants to dragons called the Vitgliv. The Vilglia have set Tinkel's main task. He is to learn about the cult called the Harlequin. Secretly Tinkel has set his main hobby as learning about the Vilglia, his bosses. Tinkel had worked in a kitchen in Dragonbrew while he was first training to be a spy. He will now return to that disguise while he is in Dragonbrew, but now he would be a chef in training. Of course he is still a gnome and he is still shy. Should Easley sign up to help the Vilglia spy on the Harlequin? This would be an interesting twist on her main goal, which was to get away from the Vilglia.
Okay. Now it was later. Two adult Vitgliv dragons have entered the room. A female was standing over the youth with a not impressed expression. A male was standing a little behind and off to one side. Tinkel read the male's expression as, "Okay.
You handle this. Just do it right, and I will be the judge."
But Tinkel also noticed a sideways glance from the female. Well, the look said something sarcastic and then the female rolled her eyes. But, Tinkel also noticed, the female made her silent comment out of the view of the male. Tinkel was not really good at understanding the dragon language yet, but now he learned that the dragon youth was named Glock. From what the two adults were saying and from what Tinkel already knew, the adults were the parents. Glock's parents didn't live together and reportedly didn't like each other when they did live together. Grogan bent down and tried to keep scrubbing the floor, but now without actually moving. Tinkel's disguise really didn't want to get noticed, and Tinkel agreed. The dragons didn't notice Tinkel or his disguise. The female, Tinkel decided, must be the famous Tread. Tinkel knew that Tread ruled over the lands on the northeast coast. That would make the male dragon, Uvex. Uvex ruled over the lands on the southeast coast. The pair had met and made an egg together before they realized that they couldn't stand to be near each other. Well, that was the legend, anyway. Now, for this moment at least, they were together, looking down at their egg, who was now a dragon youth named Glock. And Glock had just flamed a servant. The servant had been led away with most of the other servants. Now there were just two, senior servants, watching over the Vitgliv dragons. They had clearly noticed Tinkel, or hopefully, they only saw Grogan, but maybe not. Tinkel knew it was too late to run, but of course, what would be the fun in that anyway? Until he was outed as a spy, Tinkel would be Grogan the cleaner. Yes, right now he was Grogan the cleaner, and not knowing what else to do, Grogan cleaned. So, Grogan cleaned. Tinkel listened. The servants waited. The dragon youth pouted. And the adult dragons shook their heads. Tread talked to Glock with motherly sternness. She was disappointed, she told Glock. She said that Glock was growing up. He wasn't supposed to be a wormling anymore. Yes. It's okay to play. Adults play, but you need to control yourself. That's how adult dragons show they are adults. There was a slight pause as Tread thought of something, and Tinkel noticed another side eye at UVX. Yes, Tinkel thought. These two really don't like each other. Tread recovered from the thought quickly. Glock? Do you know what you did wrong? Glock said a small and timid, yes. Okay, then tell us what you did, and also tell us why it was the wrong thing to do. UVX stepped forward a bit to show that he was going to be the judge now. Glock built up his bravery and faced the situation and his father.
I shouldn't have flamed the servant. I was playing and it was an accident.
And
UVX spoke up.
tell us, you who would grow into a dragon, why don't we flame servants?
Glock spoke back the words that he had heard his father say more than once.
Servants are expensive. Too expensive. They are hard to get good ones. An heir. When you flame one, the others become so scared that they are useless as workers.
Glock looked at the floor, ready for the judgment.
Yes.
UVX used his judgment voice.
Servants are expensive and it is hard to find good ones. And yes, after you have damaged a servant, the other servants become useless for far too long. So, then, to become an adult dragon, how will you be sure this never happens again?
Glock looked at his father almost in fear. He hadn't planned this far.
Heir? I must not flame or hurt thee, or any servants.
UVX thought about this answer.
Yes. Glock. And do you know who will watch over you to be sure you don't?
Glock looked at him and then at his mother. Tread also looked at UVX. She hadn't expected these questions either. UVX answered the question himself.
Glock, you must watch over yourself. You are becoming a full dragon and dragons are the only people who can watch over dragons.
Both Glock and Tread nodded. This was very wise stuff. Tread even gave UVX a very quick and temporary look that might have led to another egg, but the look was only a flash and UVX never saw it. Later, Tinkel was quietly led out of the building. The high-ranking servant just wanted to get past this and just told Grogan not to talk about it. So, then Tinkel went away. He had played the character of Grogan as well as he could have hoped, and so, he had learned some interesting stuff about the dragons.
thinking about dragons. They tend to be very big. A metaphor for the most rich and powerful people. Right? So dragons tend to be rulers, and often not nice rulers. And sometimes they eat people. Now we know about the story about Eastleigh being a Tweedrell, and so she was taken as a young child and raised to be entertainment for the dragons. Dragons really like the cuteness of humanoid children. Because the dragons are so big that we're thinking probably they would be dispersed out over large areas, and each dragon, or possibly dragon family, would be in charge of a certain area and have a certain number of humanoid peoples within their region to deal with, to care for, or whatever dragons might think they're doing with the humanoids that are under them.
Dragons are a metaphor for the rich and powerful. They tend to be arrogant and think that they are in charge. Some groups of humans are like that, so it shouldn't seem too strange to think that flying serpents might treat other people as animals. What if? What if our dragon isn't the type of person who wants to treat his humanoids as livestock and working animals? What if our dragon likes to think of his humanoids as pets? We can already think of lots of problems with having the dragons in charge of everyone. Maybe dragon rule would be in a limited part of our world. Maybe there is a border between the dragon lands and the non-dragon lands. Then we could have ongoing conflicts. Conflicts can really help to build stories.
Dragons believe dragons are in charge. So what does S believe about the people he is in charge of? Well, other dragons mostly think of their humanoids as livestock. Perhaps not to eat necessarily, but to be working animals. Whereas, let's say S, he has a closer connection to his people, so he thinks he treats them more like pets. What could go wrong because of this? And we're thinking that maybe the people who are treated as pets get soft and start competing for S's sympathies. But what if the rock has different hardnesses, and the hard areas have definite shapes? Now you've seen in the Badlands the hoodoos with really interesting shapes, and so what about an area where basically we're getting some really wild shapes with natural caves and all kinds of interesting structures like hoodoos on top of hoodoos? How far can we push that?
In Tolkien's book, The Hobbit, the dragon Smaug was very big and powerful. Well, our world is big enough for dragons like Smaug to live somewhere, but I think we want some dragons that are a little less overpowered. We can also try to have dragons that can fly without needing magic. Some quite large birds can fly and some big dinosaurs could fly. It shouldn't be too hard to imagine dragons that are able to fly without magic. So, a dragon is really a serpent. Some have arms and legs and wings, but they are really a type of snake. Sort of. Well, I think that we could have a dragon that is not so much bigger than a human. Well, with a long tail and a long neck, maybe 3 to 4 humans long. So are all the rich and powerful arrogant? Do all of the rich and powerful treat other people as toys or tools? Well, probably. But just for fun, I want to build a dragon character who is not like that. What would other dragons think about a dragon who cared for his humanoids? Would they take him seriously? Would they think he was some sort of flake? What do you think?
And while we were talking about communities, one of them was Shattergrog, and it seemed like Shattergrog maybe was a poor place, and it's up in the mountains, up there, wilderness area. So we're thinking maybe that's where the Dragon S, these are this dragon's peoples. There are some young people that are acting up and behaving badly. We get bandits. We get poor people growing up to stealing for a living. We have wealthier people who the young people are not satisfied with their future if everything they work for and produce is going to be taken away by the dragon who runs the place, just to give it to people that aren't really trying. So a lot of young people are acting up, and then Dragon S knows that he has this problem, and his military and other police authorities don't seem to be doing the job. We come up with somebody who is going to try to, put the military in order. There must be a military person from somewhere else, probably with some reputation. We will call them L for now, again, giving everybody a chance to suggest some names. We'll also suggest the race and backstory and everything else about L.
Okay then, so, Tinkel is spying on the dragons, and this time he got away with it. And, because of Tinkel's bravery, or was it foolishness? But anyway, thanks to Tinkel's spying, we have now met 3 more dragons. The dad dragon is Yuvex. He is stern and maybe can be worse than stern, but we aren't sure. The mom dragon is Tread, who is tough and independent, but maybe not so tough and independent when she is in the same room as Yuvex. And then we have the future of dragonkind. He is Glock and he is just entering dragon puberty, whatever that is. We didn't learn any more about the other dragon, Namdrafrome. We can assume, though, that he would also be at this meeting. We have been speculating about what the dragons might want to talk about at their meeting. One idea that we like is that Yuvex and Tread want to make sure that there is some land somewhere in Aldla for Glock when he comes of age. They could fight a war to gain land from the dragonless lands. But, of course, soldiers are expensive. Maybe not as expensive as trained servants, but still. And also, neither Tread or Yuvex would be very impressed with how Namdrafrome is running his lands. Yes, while coddling your humanoids might lead to good relations with most of your thrallets. That's the word we have invented for the dragons to call their humanoids. We came up with thrallets, because, humanoids is just too hard to spell. Also, Tread and Yuvex would say, treating the thrallets like pets doesn't guarantee that they will behave anyway. It might just mean that they will get ideas above their station. We have played with that idea a little bit already, and it might just come back again. What do you think? Should we hear more about Namdrafrome? Or should we just move on? Or should we have a war? Yes, we know that wars are really evil to the people involved, but they can be a good place to grow stories, can't they? So what do you think about starting a war? Despite the hell that it will put our characters through. At least there would be no shortage of conflict. Also in a war, we can usually choose sides and really get immersed. Yay team. Okay, sorry. But we are just playing? Aren't we? Nobody would really want a war because of what we write? No. Never mind. That's just totally messed up thinking. Well, okay then. I guess it's time to wrap this video up. So, just tell us what you think in the comments, and also, press the like and subscribe so that we can meet again next time. Thank you.